Well, over the past 2 years, when Grand Prix racing has seemed rather more like a McLaren benefit race than anything else, most of the excitement from televised motorsport has come from Grandstand's regular coverage of the Esso British Touring Car Championship. All the fastest cars are Sierras, although a long way away, of course, from the conventional Reps car, or indeed this rather more powerful 4x4 version. Tiff Needell has been having a go.
Tiff Needell, ex-Grand Prix driver, into the Sierra, out of the pit lane, into the race. And that was a really slick pit stop. Excellent work. And there's contact, there's a nudge, and off goes Van Cowen into the sand trap. But he's kept the Sierra rolling, and there is Tiff Needell through in the lead as Harvey comes out of the pits. Soper takes Jones, and there's contact between Pinckney and Smith, and Soper.
Every man's dream, taking the checkered flag. But that win earlier this year was my only victory so far this season. And, unless you're Senna or Prost, winning doesn't come easily. But what is a Group A touring car? Well, you start with a model of which at least 5,000 cars have been built in 1 year. One such model is this, the Ford Sierra RS Cosworth. It's a pretty impressive car in its standard trim. But for Group A, you are allowed 1 or 2 minor modifications. Modifications began with this, an Evolution Special. The regulations permit a manufacturer to build 500 specials and incorporate those modifications on the racing car, hence the RS500 Cosworth. Now we have this larger rear wing, the whale tail, 2-tier. In the engine there's a larger turbocharger and larger intercooler, which allows the power to be raised from 200 horsepower to 225. The front spoiler now has a lower chin for aerodynamics and also more ducting to increase the airflow into the coolers. And so we come to the racing model itself. There's now slick racing tyres, racing brakes and very firm racing suspension. In the engine bay, well, there's a lot of heat shielding, there's a lot of this aircraft specification high pressure piping, there's a mechanical fuel pump, and also there's a very well tuned engine. The same engine albeit, but now producing 500 horsepower. Finally, and most important in most racing cars, are the sponsors' colour schemes and logos. Here is the car that I won that race back in May with Lawrence Bristow, and in this case it's a Canadian brewer with a very important message. Inside, all the trim is stripped out, the massive rollover cage for safety, the piping laid inside for protection, for the driver, the gear lever, beside it, the brake balance adjuster, and also an anti-roll bar adjustment which helps the handling whilst driving. The racing seat holding the driver firmly in place and straight ahead the steering wheel. Now what else do we need? Ah, that's better. Now, let's see what it's like.
The main thing about Group A is that it's a compromise formula. Unlike single-seaters or Group C, it's not a car that's designed for racing alone. It's a compromise. It's a road car made into a racing car. With these engines race-tuned, you've got 500 horsepower to hold on the road, but the regulations limit the amount of tyres you're allowed to have, the tyre width. So getting 500 horsepower down onto the road in what's basically a saloon car causes quite a few interesting situations. The suspension is relatively soft. You can't get the torsional rigidity that a racing car provides because the body shell is full of holes. So you have to make do as best you can. Suspension, of course, still very stiff compared with the road car, but there's an awful lot of wheel waving and steering wheel work to be done in a Group A car. Braking is a much longer braking area as well as a racing car. So, all in all, you need a lot more road in a Group A car than perhaps you do in a Packer racer. Tending to understeer into the corners and then snapping to oversteer when the brute power of 500 horsepower is applied. And that was applying a little bit too much, too soon.
Well, that's all for this week. Now, if you'd like to share your reactions to Unleaded Petrol with us, please write to us at Top Gear, BBC Pebble Mill, Birmingham, B57QQ, and please mark your envelopes lead. Now, I really do have a plane to catch, and if I can beat these British traffic jams, next week I shall be reporting from California, where they know a thing or two about traffic and about controlling the emissions from vehicles. So see you next week at the same time from California. Good night.